Hi everyone, my name is Anurag. I'm a co-founder at Calyptia. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to go through an overview of Calyptia and First Mile Observability. So what is First Mile Observability? So First Mile refers to our ability to analyze and monitor data as soon as it's collected and created. So when we look at a data pipeline, that first step where things are collected, created, and the ability to analyze that. What that gives us is the ability to get immediate insights. Users who are using this pipeline are going to be able to get immediate insights into what's going on. And the third part about First Mile Observability is really how do you unlock that value even though you're using multiple different solutions. And that's where Calyptia comes in as having a really deep vendor agnostic approach. And the way we do this is with a couple of technologies, our own and some open source technology that we've created. This open source technology has been downloaded 1 billion times with the open source project Fluent Bit, Fluent Bit. It has 30,000 GitHub stars across the entire Fluent organization, and we have users that have scaled this up to petabytes across thousands of destinations and sources per day. So who are we? We founded Calyptia back in 2020, myself and my co-founder Eduardo Silva. We come from a number of different companies, some open source like Elastic and Treasure Data, others that are really cloud focused like Microsoft and Oracle. And we really focused on solving this problem at those large scale enterprises for hundreds of different customers, in complex environments, evolving environments, and doing it at a scale that is quite enormous. Now, we are also developers and maintainers of these two open source projects, Fluent Bit and Fluent Bit. And the great part is that we are part of a larger community, a cloud native community that comprises of projects like Kubernetes and Prometheus as the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. We're also a funded company through Sierra Ventures as well as Carbide Ventures. So we have that as the ability to go and make sure we're making the right pieces of software there. So the good thing is we work with a number of industry standard technology. As you start to look at observability and the challenges of solving this problem, you're going to be looking at a ton of different technologies. And the great part with Calyptia and our open source technology as well as our enterprise technology is we work with a number of them. Whether that's Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Elastic, we integrate with tons and tons of these folks. We have 80 plus plugins on the Fluent Bit side, thousands of plugins on the Fluent D side. So as you come up with new data, as that continually shifts and evolves, you have a friend that will be able to make sure you can connect to that. Now, we go above and beyond just connecting to data sources. We're actually also trusted by some of these organizations as they deploy their own cloud native strategies. So when we look at Google, Microsoft, Amazon, DigitalOcean, these large public cloud providers, they all are leveraging Fluent Bit in capacity of agents and ways to get data into their respective services and whatnot. Of course, we don't just service the cloud providers. We support any organization that's looking to really hone in on their first mile observability strategy. So you have large retail players, large software providers, other observability players, security companies, and other technology companies across different verticals. So again, this technology is nothing that's brand new. It's something that's already been deployed 1 billion times across container environments, across virtual machines, across all sorts of embedded Linux devices. And we've seen this enormous growth, and as part of that, have really started to capture how we can continue to strengthen up that first mile observability. So when we look at what's going on in the sector today, as users of this technology, we're really saying you're facing this perfect storm. You've got all these different data sources that are spinning up and down. They're dynamic, they're ephemeral, they are short-lived. You have distributed IT, so things running on-prem, in clouds, multi-cloud, private cloud, air-gapped. And data, we would all agree that data is continually growing and growing. And what is happening is that these existing solutions, the way they've been priced, the way they consume data, the way they scale, has been really not something that's is going to keep up with the zettabytes of data that we're expected to have in the next few years. So First Mile Observability is really saying, instead of just focusing the problem and trying to solve it the way we've been doing so before, let's try to solve this in a way that makes sense for the new world, for distributed IT, for more growing data, for dynamic data sources that are ephemeral, container-based, on-prem, etc. And why we're in a position to solve this problem right now versus before is that today we now have the power of the edge. And the edge might seem like this term that is played around all sorts of places. But look at your laptop. Look at your the servers that you're running on top of. That can be considered the edge, and that edge is continually getting more and more powerful. And so as that edge grows power, why not take some of the computing power that you have at your disposal and use it across 1,000 different endpoints versus having to go and do that centralized in a cloud somewhere. So the power of the edge is something that's growing. This is really a place where instead of trying to solve all of this centralized as we've done so in the past that, as I mentioned, is unscalable, let's go do this distributed. Let's do it with technology that's already at the edge, which is Fluent Bit today, and really start to solve some of these first mile observability problems. Now, when we look at the technology us as Calyptia we have Fluent Bit, and we also have our Calyptia Enterprise for Fluent Bit. So Fluent Bit, again, deployed a billion times, open source, something that we've created and maintained for a number of years, used by all the major cloud providers. Great to get started with. Then we also have our enterprise version that takes some of the challenges of running a hyperscale observability platform or hyperscale observability pipeline and makes it something that's much simpler to monitor, manage, and really get the most out of this first mile observability. So let's take a look at Fluent Bit. So Fluent Bit has again been around since 2015. It's been able to collect logs and metrics. It has the ability to have compatibility with Prometheus, even OpenTelemetry. It's been optimized for data parsing and routing. It has stream processing functionality, so whether you want to capture small bits of data depending on whether they have error or warning, or you want to route data in some fashion, that all exists out of the box. And really, one of the reasons that Fluent Bit is so popular is because it's written with a mindset of being the fastest and most portable and lightweight type of shipper out there. It's been very effective in container-based environments, embedded Linux environments, and Windows and other operating systems. Last but not least is Fluent Bit is very extensible. So as we keep on adding new technologies, new data backends, new data sources, we continue to see that Fluent Bit has the ability to add those from an open source side. Now, how does Calyptia Enterprise for Fluent Bit come into play? Really, the big parts of it is, one, some integrated management for all of what's going on with first mile observability, the ability to scale to petabytes of data. So as you continually send more and more data in your first mile observability plans, how do you make sure that that data growth is not going to hinder your ability to get analytics at the edge, be able to route data as it needs to be, and even dismiss data that might not be important? Again, we follow the same mantra that we have with the open source, where we don't have any vendor lock-in. We are really focused on making sure you have the freedom to go and attack as needed. And then that extends to our multi-cloud support. So it doesn't matter whether you're running this on-prem, doesn't matter if you're running this in cloud, we want to meet you where you are. Now, when we look at some of the key benefits that comes with Calyptia Enterprise for Fluent Bit, number one, speed and scale. When we look at sending that data, it's not just about the size of the data, it's really about the latency. How fast can the end users or the practitioners of observability or security start to gain the insights? And so that's a key benefit that we have with our enterprise version, being able to scale to millions of events per second. Control. So as you start to broaden your environment to multi-cloud, to multiple end destinations, multiple sources? How do you keep a sanity check on how all of that data is being routed? How do you configure? How do you tame some of that data? How do you filter it? You want a centralized control panel for that. Efficiency, again, building right out of what we've seen as the key usage of Fluent Bit: lightweight, performant, efficient. Taking that and bringing it to the enterprise level as well. And extensibility. So when we look at all of the new technology that's coming out there with Calyptia Enterprise for Fluent Bit, you get the same benefit that you're already receiving with the open source, which is that pluggable architecture, all sorts of backends, all sorts of front ends, and making sure that you can really gain the insights you need without having to spend thousands and thousands on compute that might be ill-wasted. When we look at the journey that folks have, you might be in any one of these buckets where you're sending data from, say, Kubernetes or OpenShift to an end destination like Splunk. You're going from Kubernetes and you're trying to route to multiple end destinations like Splunk and Kafka. Maybe do some cost reduction. Maybe you're trying to build a vendor neutral strategy. All together. The great part is that as you look across each of these different values, Calyptia comes into play in each one. So it doesn't matter if you have a single source, single destination. You can use Calyptia Enterprise for Fluent Bit, gain value immediately with enrichment, with filtering, etc. With cost reduction, we can add multiple destinations. We can archive some data. We can take snapshots of that data. And with multiple source and multiple destination, this is really making sure that your enterprise, as you look at how is your data going to flow into the analytic tools, into maybe the lakes, the warehouses that exist beyond, how do you take control of that? And that's really where, again, Calyptia gives you both the open source side as well as the enterprise side. So, our value is absolutely superior data parsing and routing, but we extend beyond that and to go through some of those use cases that go across development, DevOps, security, AI ops. You have things like performance monitoring, cost reduction, system migration as you're moving your clouds, data enrichment. Maybe you need to do indicator of compromise for your security use cases. Maybe you need to go and look at all of these logs in specific context so your analysis becomes faster. Stream processing, so aggregating data before it gets sent to your backend. Data replay, so as your data gets streamed to an archival system, how can you still read from it? PII detection and redaction, as well as data security. So all of these values really coming in as part of what you get with Calyptia, and having data parsing and routing is one of our great use cases. So a particular use case that we see growing is when you're using things that might be a bit more expensive than you have perhaps budgeted for or expected. We can really help you start to save money on some of that, whether it's really filter data to remove the amount of data sent, reroute some of that data to places like Amazon S3, Kafka, Elasticsearch, aggregate logs before you send. So as you are collecting thousands and thousands of logs, instead of sending every single raw metric, you can aggregate the average, aggregate the maximum, the minimum, the percentile 95, get that value and send it over, and all of a sudden you've saved those 1,000 messages into a single one. You can also enhance data and preserve context. So as you start to search specific things or as you're sending more errors, we have the ability to snapshot that and really capture everything around that event versus sending that event raw every time. So the great part about this too is, because we are so fundamentally involved with open source and building that out as a company, you can start with the open source. It's a great place. As I mentioned, single source, single destination. You can sign up for our Calyptia Cloud for free. start to get some free monitoring on top of that, the ability to try out different patterns, validate different patterns, visualize how your data is flowing live. And then as you grow that use case, or you need some particular help with even that single source, single destination, Calyptia Enterprise for Fluent Bit gives you that control and managed feeling, so you can deploy, gain some certainty, and really start to scale without having to worry about orchestrating and controlling this this first mile observability. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much. My name again is Anurag, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us at hello@calyptia.com. I really look forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you.